Hello all. In this video, we'll discuss about the feature called flexible service offerings, which is available from 4.17 release of Apache CloudStack. So here we'll quickly go through the introduction of this feature, and then we'll go into the demo of it to know more about the details. So we have already a blog published for this feature, wherein we have explained all the changes introduced as part of this feature and the new operations introduced. So we also have another CVK link which explains the deep dive details of this feature, including few implementations as well. So yeah, that's about it. So let's get into what this feature is about. CloudStack already have the concept of service offerings, using which admins allows users to define their virtual machines, volumes, and networks using compute offerings, disk offerings, and network offerings. This feature is more about compute and disk offerings and how they are linked. So prior to this feature, when coming to the compute offerings, whenever user creates a virtual machine, the root volume will be created as per it is defined in the compute offering. So when admin creates a compute offering, uh, along with the compute details like CPU, RAM, and all, compute offering also includes the root volume details like disk size, IOPS, and storage tags. So when the root volume is created, so whatever the details, disk details mentioned in the compute offering will be applied to that root volume. But this has its own limitation where users won't get a chance to choose a desired disk offerings for their root volume when they create their VM. It's always the details, disk details mentioned in the compute offerings itself. So with this feature, we have uh, made the compute and disk offerings flexible enough so that users can now choose the disk offerings which can be applied to the root volume when the VM is created. So basically, we have decoupled the disk details from compute offering, and we have made a proper linking with the disk offering itself. So while creating the compute offerings, can now link to a disk offering itself. So when a VM is created from that compute offering, so whatever the disk offering linked to that compute offering will be used to create that root volume. So users can also choose another disk offerings while they create the virtual machine. So yes, along with other changes, we have also one other important change made as part of this feature is we have introduced a new operation called change offering for the volume, using which admins or users can change the disk offering of a volume, which means uh, so when this operation is performed on the volume, so whatever the specifications mentioned in the disk offering will all be applied on the volume, which includes resizing of the volume and even auto migration of the volume to an appropriate storage pool as per it is defined in the new disk offering. So we'll go into the more details during the demo. So let's jump into it. We will start with the service offerings section, where we'll have compute offerings and disk offerings. Uh, let's go to the add compute offering form. So prior to this feature and even now, admins can create a compute offerings with all the compute related details and also with all the disk related details in the compute offering form itself. So admins can still create the compute offerings in the old way as well. The thing we have changed in the UI is we have moved all the disk related information to the end of this form to differentiate from the compute details. The new thing that we have introduced here is this toggle button, which says compute only disk offering. So if I turn this off, so this is what admins will get new options as part of this feature. So admins can now select the disk offerings while creating the compute offerings. So if I create this compute offering, and if I select a small disk offering, then this disk offering will be linked to this newly created compute offering. So any VM that is created using this compute offering, the root volume will be created using this small disk offering because this is linked to this compute offering. Yeah, the other option users admins get is they can instantly create a new disk offering while creating the compute offering itself. If say admin does not have any disk offerings that he wants to choose here, he can create a disk offering on the fly and select that newly created disk offering here. So we'll use one such compute offering which is linked to a disk offering, small disk offering. We'll go to the instance section and we'll add a new VM here. So in the compute offering section in the add instance wizard, let's select this compute offering, which says compute offering. This is the compute offering which is linked to a small disk offering. So which means the root disk created for this VM will use the small disk offering here, which I think it has 5 GB of disk size. Let's go and create this VM. So I've created this VM. If we go to the volume section of this VM, see this has the size of 5 GB because the disk offering used to create this root disk is the small disk offering, which has 5 GB of disk size and all. So that's how the linked disk offering is used to create the VM. The important flexible part which users are getting here as part of compute offering selection is, if say there is an new option here, toggle button, it says off override root disk offering. If I turn this on, users get a list of disk offerings. They can select any disk offering here. The root disk which will be created as part of this VM creation will then use the selected disk offering here. So why it said override root disk offering is, if I have selected a compute offering which has already a small disk offering linked to it, and if user wants to override it, if I want a large disk root disk for this VM, even though there is a small disk offering linked to the compute offering, the root disk will be created with this compute offering. Such flexibility we are providing to the users to choose their own disk offerings for the root volume. So a similar flexibility we are giving to the admins also, wherein in the add compute offering form, uh, we have this new option to the admins. So whatever we have discussed, like the flexibility we are giving to the users, the same thing can be controlled by the admins. If admin is creating a compute offering with a small disk offering linked to it, and if he doesn't want users to override this disk offering, he can turn this on and create a strict compute offering. Okay, So I have already created a strict compute offering. So which has all the details here, which says disk offering strictness is true, which means users can't override the disk offering if they use this compute offering. Let's go to the add instance form again and see if this override disk offering toggle button. Since small instance is selected here, users can still override the disk offerings here. If user has selected this strict compute offering, this option will not be there. This will be grayed out, which means users cannot override the root disk of override the disk offering if they are using the strict compute offering. So this is we are giving flexibility to the users as well, and giving the same sort of flexibility to the admins so that they can define how their compute offerings they want. That's about compute offering. Let's go to the disk offering section, and we'll go to the add disk offering form here. The new thing that we have added here is this toggle button which says disk size strictness. So we are providing admins a way to create the disk offerings, which says the disk size of this disk offering is strictly to the size which is strictly to the size which is created from the disk offering. If I say if I create a disk offering with 3 GB of disk, and if I turn this on, which means this is a strict disk offering. This is a strict disk offering with disk size 3 GB. Let's create this, and I'll try to create a data disk with this strict disk offering. So I've already created it. And then if this is not yet ready because this is not attached to any VM. So, okay, now this data disk is ready. And if I try to resize the volume, and if I choose a disk offering, sorry, a disk size of 4 GB, and if I try to resize it, so this operation will not be allowed because the disk size is strictly fixed as per the disk offering. So this is again a new thing we have introduced as part of the disk offerings. Yes. And then let's jump into the other features where we have introduced a new operation called change disk offering for the volume. So if the volume is already created and if user or admin wants to change the disk offering of it, so we have this new option here. Let's look into this feature now. So let's try this operation on a new data disk. I'm going to create a new data disk with disk offering small disk. And let me quickly attach this volume to a VM. So we have a VM already and I am attaching to it. So this is ready, and let's try our new operation, which is changing of the disk offering for this volume. So let's select a disk offering medium disk. So this is of 20 GB, and the disk that we have created is 5 GB. So the expectation is that since we are changing this to a medium disk offering, the volume should be resized accordingly to 20 GB. And let's try it out. And if you see, we have new two options here to confirm, which says auto migrate volume to another storage pool if required, and shrink OK. So if, say, based on the selected disk offering, if the volume has to be migrated to a different storage pool, then we need to confirm with this toggle button whether we should auto migrate to that storage pool or not. And same thing with volume resize. If the volume the disk offering selected has lesser volume size than the existing disk size, then we need to confirm whether shrinking of that volume is allowed, should be allowed or not. So for now, since we have selected medium disk offering with 20 GB, we can go ahead without these options. So I am trying it out. So the change offering for the volume is being is successful already. And if you see this, the disk size of this new data disk is 20 GB. So as part of the changing the disk offering, we have resized it because the new disk offering says it. That's with the changing of the disk offerings. Let's also try out the auto migration part while changing the disk offering. So before trying that out, let me show you like how storage tags are assigned in this environment. So I have two primary storages, primary 1 and primary 2. I have tagged primary 1 with P1 tag, and the primary 2 storage with P2 tag. Also, I have created few disk offerings with these tags. So a P1 tagged disk offering with disk size 3 GB, and a P2 disk offering with 3 GB, and similar P1, P2 disk offerings with 5 GB disk sizes. And they have tags accordingly, P1 and P2. I have just reflected in the names just for readability purpose. So i- before trying this migration of the volumes as part of change offerings, I wanted to show you a new global setting that we have introduced, which is important in our case because this is this says match storage pool tags with disk offerings. That it says if it is true, volumes disk offerings can be changed only with the matched storage tags. If, say, if I created a disk offering with if I created a data disk with P1 tagged disk offering, and if I am trying to change the offering which has P2 tagged, then this global setting will be checked first. If it is true, then that operation will not be allowed, because we are saying that match the storage pool tags whenever the volumes disk offering is changed. So for the default value is true, and let's try an operation with that. I'm creating a data disk 3 with a P1 tagged disk offering. So let's go and create a P1 tagged disk offering. Let's quickly attach it to a VM to see if it will be created on P1 storage. If you see, the storage pool is P1 for this data disk, and it is ready. And now let's try to change the disk offering for this volume. So in the list of disk offerings, if you see, we can only see the disk offerings which has P1 tagged. So since the existing offering is P1 tagged disk offering, we can only see this only P1 tagged disk offerings in this list. This is because that global setting that we have seen before is set to true. Let's quickly go there, go to the global settings, and change that value to false. And what we are saying now here is CloudStack will not match the storage pool tags when the disk offerings are changed. So this sort of flexibility also we are giving to the admins. So this is the data disk which is created with P1 tagged disk offerings. So now if you see, the list of disk offerings have a whole bunch of all the disk offerings where there is no check for the storage tags. So now I am selecting to the P2 tagged disk offering. Let's select this one, P2 tagged disk offering, maybe P2 tagged disk offering 2. So the expectation is that P1, the existing data disk of has 3 GB in size. If you remember, the P2 tagged disk offering 2 has 5 GB of disk defined in the disk offering, and it has a tag P2. So uh, it is supposed to be it migrated to the P2 tagged primary storage. Now it is on P1. Since we are selecting P2 tagged disk offering, this volume will be migrated to the P2 tagged disk offering and also will resize to 5 GB. Let's do that now. So the change offering for the volume is still in progress. And if you see, the volume is being migrated there. Yes. If you see the storage pool of this data disk 3, now it is primary 2, because since the disk offering that we have selected has P2 tagged storage, it has migrated to that corresponding primary storage, and also it has resized the disk size to 5 GB from 3 GB. So that's how the change disk offering for the volume works, by completely applying the characteristics of the selected disk offering on that volume. So yeah, that's about it. And as I said, we have all the details in this blog, and also a deep dive details in SE Wiki blog also. Um, if for further more information, please go through the blogs. And I hope this video help you understanding this feature. Thank you.